Silent as a whisper, the village of Eldridge lay nestled in a hollow where the mist gathered thick in the evenings. The road leading into the village was long and winding, flanked by ancient trees whose gnarled branches seemed to reach out with skeletal fingers. The villagers avoided speaking of Eldridge's history, for it held secrets buried deep beneath the soil, secrets best left undisturbed. One crisp autumn afternoon, a young woman named Sarah found herself on that very road, her only company the crunch of fallen leaves beneath her boots. Eldridge was her destination, a place spoken of only in hushed tones back in the city, but Sarah was driven by curiosity and the promise of a quieter life. Behind her, only a trail of whispers that would remain unanswered. The village emerged, almost as if from a dream, or perhaps a nightmare, looming out of the mist as she rounded a corner. Eldridge was unlike anywhere Sarah had ever seen. It was as if time itself had forgotten this place. The houses were a puzzle of Victorian architecture, their windows like hollow eyes watching with a silent vigilance. Weather-worn shingles clung to the roofs, and ivy crept up the walls in a slow, indiscriminate crawl. Daylight waned as she walked through the village square, noticing a small cafe with an alluring scent of freshly brewed coffee. An old building, standing with a stately presence, seemed to dominate the square. It was the library, or so Sarah guessed from the faded letters barely visible on its door. It beckoned to her, promising the knowledge that lay within. Her first few days in Eldridge passed with a sense of unease, a feeling she tried to attribute to the transition and not the palpable chill that ran up her spine whenever she locked eyes with some of the villagers. They were a reserved lot, their expressions guarded, as if measuring every word before speaking. Thoughts lingered in the long, silent pauses that often stretched between exchanges. It was in the library where Sarah found her partner in solitude, an elderly man named Henry, the librarian. Henry was tall and thin, his skin slightly translucent under the dim library lights. He wore spectacles that perched precariously on his nose, giving him an unobstructed view of his domain. He spoke with an antiquated accent, an echo of Eldridge's history. "Mind the books you choose," he said one day, a twinkle of mirth, yet also a warning in his eyes. Despite his strange advice, Sarah found her solace within those labyrinthine stacks, surrounded by tomes that whispered their stories of the past. One night, as the wind howled through the village like a lost soul, Sarah experienced a disturbance. The clock had just struck midnight when a melodic noise drifted through her window, breaking the silence of night. It was not any ordinary melody. It was haunting, a lullaby laced with notes of sorrow. Unable to resist its call, Sarah threw on her coat and ventured into the night. The village was deserted, shadows stretching long and thin under the moon's gaze. As she followed the melody, it seemed to intertwine with the wind, leading her to the village church, an imposing structure on the outskirts. Its spire pierced the night sky like a silent sentinel. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, she was greeted by a sight both eerie and fascinating. Candles flickered, illuminating the pews where villagers sat silent and still, but their eyes were closed, as if in a trance. She saw Henry among them, his lips moving as if mouthing words to the melody that now wrapped itself around her like a shroud. Curiosity tangled with fear as she watched, her sense of reality slipping away. She turned to leave, her heart racing, only to find the doors refusing to budge. Panic flared, she was trapped. The hymn rose in intensity, and with it, a part of the choir of sounds seemed to originate from beneath the church floor. Her eyes were drawn to an inconspicuous trapdoor near the altar, thoughtlessly left ajar. With shaking hands, Sarah pulled it wide open. Darkness yawned beneath the church, beckoning with a whisper only she could hear. Gripping the banister, she descended, candlelight flickering feebly against the cold stone walls. The air was cooler below, yet within it lingered an unsettling heat, a warmth that seemed unnatural. At the bottom of the staircase, a narrow passage opened up into what once might have been catacombs, now stripped of their solemnity. Instead, a swirling pattern of symbols lined the walls, etched in aged stone. The melody echoed eerily in the confined space as Sarah explored further. Every step she took resonated with an inexplicable sense of foreboding. In the distance, a low luminescence beckoned. As she approached, she found a chamber with a stone table at its center. Candles surrounded it, forming a circle inseparable from the echoes of chanting above. Upon the table lay a seemingly ancient book bound in leather, its crimson-tinted pages etched with the same patterns she had seen on the walls. Though she could not understand the language, the book radiated a power that was palpable. Sarah's fingers brushed its surface, and for a fleeting moment, the melody seemed to sigh in contentment. A voice, familiar yet otherworldly, filled the chamber. Sarah spun around, confronting not an apparition but the villagers from above. Their faces were unseen, covered by the darkness, but she sensed their eyes upon her. "Each generation must choose," intoned Henry, stepping forth from the shadows, transformed by the inconceivable power he served. "It is the book that binds us to Eldridge." Choice, a word that now terrified Sarah more than anything else. She stumbled backward, feeling trapped in more ways than the physical. The rhythm of her heartbeat clashed violently with the melody that persisted, undeterred by her presence. Sarah realized the door to her fate lay in her hands, beyond the mysterious book that pulsed with every spoken word. But before she could comprehend, another presence joined them, one that emerged from their shared silence. One of wisdom, or perhaps madness, locked with her fleeting understanding of freedom. This new entity's power washed over her, a suffocating force she both feared and craved. Recognizing her moment of weakness, it reached out with tendrils unseeable, embedding its very essence into the depths of her conscience. Images flashed in her mind, visions of time weaving through Eldridge's dark history, of villagers past and future, and the singular cycle of choice and consequence, a tapestry only the book could unravel. Her every fiber screamed against the urge to understand, to succumb to the melody that tempted her towards the darkness. But Sarah was inherently resistant, a spirit not easily subdued. With a physical strength she didn't know she possessed, she slammed the book shut, air rushing into the chamber in a gust that snuffed the candles and left them in a silence heavy with the finality of her decision. When she emerged from the church that night, the fog had lifted, and the sky had returned her stars. The village was asleep, unaware, perhaps unknowing of the choice that had altered its fate. Only Henry lingered at the church's threshold, a shadow of understanding passing between them. It was a victory, small and personal, but in the heart of Eldridge, it carried the weight of secrets untold and choices made for generations to come. Though the melody was silenced and the shadows dispersed, Sarah knew the village would awash itself once more in secrets. Even she herself would come to pass within. Days unfolded into weeks, and the memory of the book and its haunting call faded from immediate thought, captured only in moments the villagers gathered at the square. Whispers of history wove through their daily lives, harbingers of their destiny. And Sarah, the girl who had refused the call, found herself forever at the heart